as a black therapist, knowing that it was a great marketing niche, so I always had a full practice. But it caused me some challenges because what I had learned in school wasn't really giving me the outcome that I desired with the clientele I was dealing with. So I had to go back to school. And I didn't go to the university, but I went to the communiversity. And the communiversity was those people that came into my life that stretched me beyond where I was. And you were one of those people, Dr. Hoppy. You know, it was interesting that a lot of the people I met them independent of one another, only to come to find out that these very same people travel in the same universal circles. So tonight I want to pull both sides in. So as we go through the conversation, you will hear me talk some stuff regarding psychology and the spirituality from the perspective of Christianity as a religion to Christianity as a spiritual system, which is meaning you more have a Christ consciousness. So I'm going to jump it off from there. Give you anything you want to say in regards to any of the things I've just put out there.
Wow, that's just a lot. I do want to let the audience know that this is an interactive participation. So if you have questions, you can either go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Ignite Your Soul Connection, or on your phone, you can push the number 1. And that will raise your hand. So while Greg is talking, while I'm talking, if you should have a question or a comment, feel free to participate and interact with us. Greg, I think that's quite a bit, and you also, it's quite a bit that you're going to talk about, but you also have the depth of experience to share from such a broad perspective. So I believe that quite a few people will be helped and will receive a great deal of insight from this conversation. So, I'm inspired. So I can't wait to hear how you're going to break this down for us. So if I were to ask you, what was your biggest challenge in moving from psychology into Christianity into spirituality? Because in my experience, psychology does have a diverging path from Christianity and spirituality.
That's correct. The best thing that ever happened to me was I was doing when I went back to the communiversity, I began to do a self-study in black psychology. And as I began to look at some of the writers that were leading the field in black psychology, like Naeem Akbar, I began to see that they began to tie Egypt or Kemet into the whole system. And it was interesting to find the word psychology comes from the Kemetic word saku, which is the study of the spirit. And so really psychology should be really spiritual psychology, studying the soul or helping the soul to evolve in the medium of this body. And so what we do in traditional psychology is supposedly we study the mind, which is very deceptive. And the psychology is the study of human behavior. And the one thing about humans are so creative that if they're good at what they do, they can mask or hide. And you may think you know a person, but in all actuality, you don't. I have countless people who've come to therapy for saying, well, I thought I knew them. Well, strangely enough, we never know a person because most people hide behind this veil. And because of things that have happened to them in this lifetime, or some believe that we still bring baggage from perhaps lifetimes that we may have experienced before. Now that probably sent a lot of flags up for those on the call who are believers when you talk about reincarnation. And I want to talk about that too. So my biggest really came from having these personal experiences. I got to take you back to the age of 12. At 12, I was walking down Madison and 12th Avenue in the city or village of Maywood. It had to be around 9, 10 o'clock at night on a summer night, and there was you remember the old tent revivals that you see pop up in our communities. There was a revival going on the corner, but I had to be home because the street lights, they were on. So I was pressing my way on. But at this moment in time, I had to stop because I'm watching what is going on in this open tent from the street. I thought it was just mayhem. People was running around, dust was flying everywhere. The preacher was putting his hand on people, and the people was falling out. Now, mind you, I'm 12 years old. I go to church 3 times a year: Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. And at that point I was going to a traditional Baptist church, which I appreciate. Every experience I'm talking about, I appreciate, and don't say one is better than the other. I appreciate it. But I watched it. So because I had to get home, on my way home, I said this to God as I knew him at that time. I said, God, if this is real, show me in my lifetime. And the one thing the Africans believe no man shows a child the Creator. The Creator shows himself to those who seek him. For even the scripture says we must come as a little child. So without any pretense at 12, I asked to know if it's real. And because I asked not for lucre, not for gain, not for fame, my life has evolved to the place where I am now. And I had some unique things happen to me as a kid, and my mom used to always call me a golden child. Now, I don't know what any of that stuff meant, but when I was called into ministry, and tonight I got to kind of talk about my experience, because I believe my experience is so like the majority of the people I know, but they don't have the audacity to come front and center with their experience. I know so many people who are behind the veil. And because I'm a therapist by trade, I got the opportunity to talk to pastors, spiritual leaders who would come into my office, close their door, strip themselves of their collar, and just say, something's not right. But at the end of the session, after signing that check, they'll put that collar back on, put that inauthentic self back on, and go back and keep doing what they were doing. Well, I came to a point in my life where I said, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. And the reason why I can't do it anymore, because if what we read in the Word isn't happening, then something must be wrong with me, not the Word, if I believe the Word is true as I've been taught. So now I begin to go inside and look at myself. And the number one challenge I have had to deal with was, am I willing to be authentic? Am I willing to have integrity? And my issue with the vast majority of those who are in leadership is they really don't have integrity. They say one thing before the people, but when they get in the confines of closed conversation, they're saying something else. They're even practicing other things that they would stand from the pulpit and say it's witchcraft or you should stay away from it. So my personal challenge, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that it goes back to a point that you made early on in your conversation when you said that you were coaching or counseling females. A majority of people were females, and females come from a place of intuitive knowing. Sometimes
a very different place.
Very different place. And it's almost, to me, it's a danger. It's almost dangerous to have a spiritual body of people that is led by men who do not have that same natural intuitive knowing, unless, of course, they surrender to it.
Right.
Because
and
it's available. Go ahead.
Exactly. When you look at some of the, let's say, the greatest society that we know of is the ancient society of Kemet, or Egypt. And everything that Greece has, all these theologies, philosophies came out of there. Egypt was led by women, but it's not spoken about. That female essence gave them the ability to have a high society. And when we look at the evolution of foreigners coming into Egypt and how over the course of time and force, how and things that were hidden because certain people weren't given privy to how things actually work. Now we have a system that looks like truth but is missing some things. It's like making a cake and you have a taste and you say there's a missing element.
Yes.
Well, there's some missing elements in traditional Christianity that now are being have been found, and there's a mad scramble by the leaders to try to either incorporate this in or to discredit it. So and here's, I'm a thinker, so I challenge my entire belief system. So we can start there. If we want to get to the next level that we are moving to, we're at the place where we're moving from the time where candlelight to actually LED. Do you see the difference between a candlelight and a light that is fixed to an electrical source? It's much brighter, operates on a total different principles. That's where we are moving as a people, and mankind is moving to a new place. And the struggle that I see my clients having, the conversation I'm having with other individuals, is how do I incorporate what I have and at the same time move forward? Well, we got to be willing to evaluate what we believe, because whatever you think on frequently, it becomes your belief. And what you believe controls your behavior. So when we look at Christianity in America, based on, if anybody want to validate what I'm sharing with you, you can go to what's called Barna, B-A-R-N-A, research group. George Barna is a white brother in the Lord who he specializes in research as it pertains to Christianity. One of the things he's found that there's a great falling away from the church in America. Now, here's the thing. They're not going out the front. Believers are not leaving the front door of the church, but they're in the backyard. What they're saying is, what's going on in there, I ain't with it, but I still want to stay with this whole concept. And so I'm finding on any given Sunday, there's a lot of people who are not in church, but they're on a quest for true spirituality.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I want everyone to come away with, to realize that you can have religion and not have spirituality. Your spirituality usually births a religion. Let me explain that to you. When I say your spirituality births a religion, means your culture, the way you play out your spirituality, involves down to a human level that we call religion. Religion is our way, our culture. Like when you look at Western Christianity, it's tempered by the culture of Western man. When you look at Eastern Christianity, it's tempered by the culture of the Eastern communities, which tend to be more right brain, which means it's more spiritually focused, but it still have a cultural overlay. As long as we are human beings in physical bodies, we're going to overlay our humanness on that. The goal is to not allow our human self to kill our spiritual self. So a lot of people are heavy on tradition, and it don't allow for the spirit to really be to evolve or show forth. Does that make sense?
That's very interesting, because I had never looked at that perspective before. So Christianity has a different look when it's an Eastern culture, and I guess
yes.
It probably has a different look when it's an African culture too, doesn't it?
Yes. It really borders on, it's more mystical. Even when you look at Catholicism in the Western culture, is different than Catholicism in Haiti. Catholicism in Haiti borders on I think the religion is called Santa Maria, I'm at a loss for the word for what they call the practice of Catholicism in Haiti. It's actually the same thing, but it has a heavy African cultural orientation to it.
Okay.
Right. So backing back, because there's a falling away, my dilemma as a pastor has been, I never wanted to grow the church on entertainment. Now, I know my forte is marketing. I love marketing, and I know what it would take to have the biggest church in the community. But I had the integrity that I just won't do it. I refuse to do it because I have seen. I've been behind the veil. Being a pastor, I'm able to go in the back room. I've been able to sit at the tables and see